Hi everyone, I'm Shannon from Seacoast Mediation and Conflict Coaching. Today I want to talk to you about something that can be life-changing, both personally and professionally, and that's conflict management coaching, also known as just conflict coaching for short. Today I put together a little presentation explaining what conflict coaching is, as well as situations in which it can be used. So please bear with me, I'm going to be looking off to the side from time to time as I consult my notes. So the first thing I want to go over is, what is conflict coaching? At its core, it's a one-on-one confidential process that helps you develop the skills, awareness, and insights to handle conflict more constructively. So a couple of important distinctions to make. It's not therapy, and it's not mediation either, although we are going to talk a little bit later about how it can help you prepare for mediation. Instead, conflict coaching is a structured, goal-oriented process that focuses on helping you understand how you approach conflict, what might be getting in your way when you're trying to resolve conflicts, and how to shift your thinking or behavior to reach better outcomes. So in essence, it's about learning how to respond versus react. And it's about developing the confidence and clarity around conflict situations so that they're not so intimidating. So let's start with the most common situation that folks often think about when they're thinking about working through conflict. And that's when you are in conflict with someone else. So that could really be anyone. It could be a coworker, it could be a friend, a family member, a partner, or even a stranger. Conflict coaching helps you take a step back and really look at what's happening from multiple angles. So not just what the other person is doing, but also what you bring to the situation as well. And I do want to acknowledge here for a minute that I do know that looking at your own role in a conflict can feel really intimidating. But it's important to know that conflict coaches are specially trained to be able to approach these situations from a very non-judgmental place, so that you're hopefully able to feel safe and respected when you're doing that kind of self-reflection with your coach. I will say that as a conflict coach myself, I am somebody who's not immune to conflict either. Nobody is. And I know that I always appreciate when folks are non-judgmental towards me. That is what I would want. So that is what I try to do as well with the folks that I work with. So if you are in conflict with someone else, through coaching, you can identify what's most important to you. You can clarify your goals and explore options for how you're going to move forward in a way that aligns with your values. So that could be a number of things. That could be preparing for a difficult conversation. It could be establishing healthy boundaries. It could also just be finding ways to de-escalate tension when it arises. Conflict coaching, as I had mentioned earlier, can also be really helpful when you're in conflict with someone else and that's leading up to a mediation. So it's helpful when preparing for the mediation. What it does is it gives you some space to really clarify what you want to say during the mediation, what outcomes you're hoping for, and how you're going to stay calm and constructive during the session. Because when we are in conflict, we do need to be prepared for the fact that things may not always go the way that we want them to. So the question then is, how are we going to respond if and when that happens? Especially, how are we going to respond if and when that happens in a way that isn't going to escalate things further for ourselves? So what conflict coaching does is it helps you enter mediation feeling more prepared. It helps you feel more confident and focused. And that typically leads to a better experience overall and better outcomes. So to wrap up this section about when you're in conflict with someone else, one last thing that I feel is really important to mention is that the goal of conflict coaching isn't necessarily to win the conflict. It's more to engage with it in a way that's constructive and empowering and helps you reach your personal conflict management goals. All right, so now let's transition to sort of a different area in which conflict coaching can be used, because sometimes the conflict isn't with someone else, or at least not yet, it's within ourselves. So I find this tends to be especially true for folks who might tend to be a bit conflict avoidant. And that's usually because they find that the feelings that come up for them during conflict are really extremely intense or overwhelming. So I would say an example of an internal conflict might be that you're feeling scared to have a difficult conversation with someone that you know you probably really do need to have. It could also just be that you're struggling with difficult feelings like guilt, regret, or resentment from a past situation with someone. And those feelings, when we hold on to them, can impact our mental health, as well as our relationships with others. So regardless of the situation, holding on to conflict internally without a way to release it or work through it can often cause long-term chronic stress and even illness within the body at times. It can also lead to that volcano effect where your feelings the negative emotions start to really build up inside of you until they inevitably reach an exploding point. And anybody who's lived through that knows that that's often a really harmful experience for themselves and often others as well. So conflict management coaching can help you unpack those internal conflicts. So it will help you maybe understand where they're coming from, what they mean, how to work through them, and any actions you might need to take. By gaining some clarity and hopefully some compassion for yourself, you can make decisions that feel more grounded and aligned with who you want to be. And even if you're not in a specific conflict right now, and even if you don't have any internal dilemmas at the moment, conflict coaching can still be really valuable. So some people come to coaching because they just want to increase their overall conflict competence. And that essentially just means improving your ability to handle conflict confidently and productively when it does arise. So this can be especially valuable for people who are leaders and managers and may need to support others through conflict. It can also be really valuable for folks who may find themselves in conflict more often than they like and would like to sort of understand why that is and what they can try differently in the future. And then it's also really valuable for those folks I've already mentioned who maybe rarely face conflict or are conflict avoidant, often because it tends to get very intense and overwhelming for them. So in coaching, we help you improve your conflict competence by looking at your personal conflict patterns. So that's essentially the ways that you typically think, feel, and act during conflict. And then your coach helps you to build some self-driven strategies to strengthen your communication and emotional regulation skills. So the result is that you are more effective, more confident, and more resilient in the face of conflict. All right, one last little area I want to go over before I wrap up. Because it's important to note here that while conflict coaching is typically done on an individual basis, it's actually really helpful for teams and organizations as well. Because when all or even just a few people engage in conflict coaching, it can really change the whole culture of the team or organization for the better. So typically you start to see fewer misunderstandings, less tension, and just more collaboration and trust. That then leads to better productivity, better morale, and just a healthier workplace overall. It really is an investment in both people and performance. All right, so to wrap up, at the end of the day, conflict is a normal and natural part of being human. It's not something to fear or avoid, and it's certainly not something to judge ourselves for. Working through conflict can actually be a really productive and empowering experience if it's managed effectively. And managing it effectively is essential to having healthy relationships with others. Conflict coaching gives you the tools, perspective, and confidence to do exactly that, whether it is navigating a current conflict, trying to resolve an internal struggle, or just wanting to increase your overall conflict competence. Because at the end of the day, conflict is inevitable. We all experience it, but how we respond to it is a choice. If you'd like to learn more about how coaching works or explore whether it might be a good fit for you or your team, don't hesitate to visit www.seacoastmediation.com and reach out for a free consultation. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. I post regular videos to help you navigate conflict more constructively. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.